Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, just this morning, President Marcos calls for courtesy resignations of cabinet members. Rising bond yields unnerves markets as Trump's 90-day pause in tariffs approaches the halfway mark. We check back with Stephen Olson, visiting senior fellow at Izias Yusof Ishak Institute. As the Philippines carries on with tariff negotiations with the U.S., government and the private sector here try to find ways to unlock the Philippines' potential. Our mobile journalist Amy Atienza joins us live from the Business World Economic Forum happening now at the Grand Hyatt. And to put that into context, one of the forum speakers, Ed Francisco, president of BDO Capital and Investment Corp. The presidents of the U.S. and South Africa has turned tense over allegations of discrimination against white people. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the lights to be dimmed to show South African President Cyril Ramaphosa video clips of supposed killings and land seizures targeting white farmers. What began as a cordial conversation about foreign relations and golf quickly unraveled into a confrontation reminiscent of February's clash between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
These are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. It happens.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black.
I
don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
At a press conference after the meeting, Ramaphosa declared there is no genocide in South Africa. He also expects Trump to attend the Group of 20 or G20 summit in November. South Africa will hold trade talks in the coming days as it faces a 31% reciprocal tariff once the 90-day reprieve that began in April ends. The U.S. House of Representatives is planning to vote on Trump's tax and spending bill this Thursday. That's according to Speaker Mike Johnson, who, along with the president, is hunting votes for the measure. It proposes to extend the 2017 tax cuts, reduce health and food benefits for low-income Americans, cancel green energy programs, and provide fresh funding for immigration enforcement. Trump met with Republican holdouts at the White House Wednesday as some factions worry the bill could increase the deficit and raise more debt, which is already north of $36 billion. What Trump touted as one big beautiful bill has been one of the reasons why Moody's downgraded America's credit rating last week. The bill is expected to face an uncertain future in the Senate. 12 U.S. states argued that Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are illegal. A 3-judge panel of the Court of International Trade in New York heard arguments from 12 attorneys general, all opposition Democrats. They argued that Trump misinterpreted the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the law he used to justify the tariffs. According to the AGs, Trump treated the law as a blank check to regulate trade, even if it can only be used to address unusual and extraordinary threats. The U.S. Justice Department rebutted by saying that under the law, the tariffs can be used as leverage to negotiate trade deals and attain other foreign policy goals. U.S. markets saw their biggest declines in a month as concerns are mounting over a potential increase in government debt because of Trump's proposed tax bill. Soft demand on longer-dated Treasury yields, driven by worries and rising deficits, sent the Dow down yesterday, Wednesday, by nearly 2%. S&P 500 down a lot more, by 1.6%, and the Nasdaq sliding by 1.4%. As for the benchmark 10-year Treasury yields, they're nearing the 4.6% mark, edging at 4.59%, and gold prices have inched up to $3,309 per troy ounce. U.S. futures are pointing to slight movements when the markets open later tonight, Manila time. The Dow declines by less than 0.1%, but the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are up by about 0.1%, portending a mixed start. As for Asian markets, they're tracking Wall Street losses. They're opening this Thursday down for Australia's ASX 200 about 0.1%, Kospi Index lower by at least 0.4%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 down nearly 1%. Let's take a quick check in the Philippine markets this Thursday. PSCI opening today at 6,360. That's lower by nearly 0.25%. The stock market snapped its 5-day losing streak to end Wednesday's session higher by 0.6%. Let's take a look at the Philippine peso. It opens today, Thursday, slightly stronger at 55.56 to the dollar. Peso closed yesterday at 55.66 against the greenback. Pause in tariffs approaches its halfway mark, we take stock of what the Philippines has done so far to ensure we get the best deal out of the negotiations happening with the U.S. Trade Department. But how are we doing so far? Going by Trump's schedule, the 90-day pause ends on July 31st. Let's check back in with Stephen Olson, former U.S. trade negotiator and now visiting senior fellow at IZEA's Yusof Ishak Institute, Singapore, live from Hong Kong. Good to see you again, Stephen. Welcome back to the program.
Always good to see you, Cathy. Good morning.
Right, so the last time we talked was March 4th, well before the April 2 Liberation Day tariffs. And 2 months on, with a 90-day pause in between, and we're crossing over that halfway mark this Saturday, how are you assessing how the world's reacted?
Well, a couple of things. I don't think we have any greater clarity on where this process is going to ultimately end up at the halfway point than we did at the beginning. Other than to say that, from my perspective at least, I think it's clear that President Trump has begun to realize that he's overplayed his hand a little bit. First, he announced these draconian tariffs, then he pressed the pause button, and more recently at the negotiations with China in Geneva, the U.S. was able to provide a very substantial tariff reduction to China in exchange for nothing, really, nothing more than a commitment to continue the discussions. So I think there's a bit of a realization creeping in that he's perhaps overestimated the strength of the U.S. Position and underestimated the strength, certainly of the larger trade partners like China. So in terms of the rest of the world, I think they've taken note of that and perhaps feel a bit of a swing in the leverage in these discussions.
Right, overplaying his hand and an overestimation, as you say, it's all showing up in the long-dated treasuries. That punched 5% following Moody's U.S. credit ratings downgrade. So what has Trump underestimated more? Is it the markets or the strength of America's trade partners?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, President Trump committed a cardinal sin of any negotiation, which is to reveal to your negotiating partners where your pain point is. So very early on, when the treasuries took a dive and that resulted in the tariff pause, that was certainly noted in every capital around the world that was something that really got the president's attention. But in terms of the U.S. position, Trump has an oversimplified view of the world. He says other countries export more to us than we export to them. So slap tariffs in place, and these countries will line up hat in hand, willing to offer me concessions. But that's not quite right. I mean, the United States is a large country. It is an important country, but it is not the only country in the world. And countries, particularly China, have been diversifying their trade relationships away from the United States. So it might come as a surprise to President Trump to learn that China now exports more to ASEAN than it does to the United States. So the leverage dynamic isn't quite what Trump thought.
A very important sub-region. If there is one realization how this is playing out, it's really that globalization has pretty much diversified many countries away from just one big trading partner as the U.S. So how evident is that, Stephen? And what gains are sub-regions like the ASEAN are having now, given our proximity to China and the geographic closeness with each other as neighbors?
Well, I think it provides a very strong impetus for the region to even further deepen integration and further remove restrictions and barriers to the extent that that's possible. At least initially, I think it's almost a given that relations with China will grow even more closer. But there's a word of caution there because as the US market is progressively close to China, a lot of that industrial excess capacity that's being generated in China is going to increasingly end up in ASEAN, and that's going to result in increased antagonisms between China and various countries in ASEAN. And you've started to see that already.
As a final point, as former U.S. trade negotiator, how best can the Philippines get the most out of the current negotiations with the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative?
It's going to be an uphill climb. I think what you need to do is remind the United States of the ways in which the United States benefits from healthy, collaborative, productive trade relationships with the Philippines. I think that's probably the best approach.
Got that. Well, thank you so much for the update. Stephen Olson, former U.S. trade negotiator and visiting senior fellow at IZEA's Yusof Ishak Institute, Singapore. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, as Economic Forum aims to unlock the Philippines' potential amid global trade uncertainties. And Philinvest Development Corp plans to raise up to 8 billion pesos via preferred share offering. Keep it here on One News. And palagay din ng ng graphic. I just want to see it kung clear siya. Amy, so good to see you. Good morning at salamat sa paghintay.
Hello po. Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning po.
Yes, we're just fixing your shot. I think you are fixing your shot as you have all the equipment with you. Thank you so much for doing this for us. It's coming up to maybe 2 minutes before we go live. And then, meron ka bang nakausap? Maybe a cabinet secretary there?
Oh, not yet po. But I received the news po from the Department of Budget and Management na nag-resign na daw po si Ms. Mina.
Ah, I see. Okay. Ibig sabihin, tinender yung resignation pero nasa kay President pa rin yung desisyon.
Yes po.
Baka gusto mo i-share na lang yon, if that's
Yes
okay.
po, I have the statement naman po.
Thanks so much.
With me. So I can share din po.
Alright. Nandyan ba siya ngayon, si Sec Amena?
Wala po. Wala po.
Sige. Thanks a lot, Amy.
Si RC Balisacan.
Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. And just a few hours ago, President Marcos calls for courtesy resignations of cabinet secretaries. The president says this is to realign the government with the people's expectations. In a statement, he said that Filipinos expect results and not politics or excuses. And this is their way to hear their calls and act towards it. The president also emphasized that the sudden move is not about personalities, but performance, alignment, and urgency. He also added that the time for quote-unquote comfort zones is over. The Presidential Communications Office said that the move is for the president to evaluate the performance of each department and determine who will be continuing in their posts. They underscored that this is the government's transition to a performance-driven, sharper, faster, more people-focused approach. In an interview with Gretchen Ho on Morning Matters, Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco said she will heed the president's call.
I myself am ready to present the courtesy resignation, knowing that the transformation we have given to the tourism industry is one that has employed millions of Filipinos, contributed a lot to our nation.
Philstock's financial research manager Japheth Tantiangco said in a text message with us just an hour ago that it is a big move from the president, but leads to a lot of questions. If it is really the way to solve the problems of the country, and why does it have to be all the secretaries? And how will they be sure if the succeeding ones will do better? And Business World is hosting an economic forum as we speak entitled Unlocking the Philippine Potential, on how business and government find ways to grow our economy through investments as global trade policy uncertainties persist. With us now for more for the latest on ground in BGC Taguig is One News mobile journalist Amy Atienza. So what's the latest there, Amy?
Good morning, Kathy. We are here at BGC Taguig, and actually, we're just starting the business forum for today. And actually, just a while ago when I arrived here, I had the chance to talk with some of the entrepreneurs, and they were actually very excited. If we go way back during the Business World Forecast last November, also in the same venue, we talked about the economic takeoff of the Philippines last November, and the young entrepreneurs that I actually talked to for today, we're very excited because they wanted to spearhead more strategies for international consumption. And actually, one more thing that really sparked to me was that they are also very ready to be more strategic when it comes to their marketing assets and their advertisements because they believe that this would be the solution for them to spearhead more business ventures in the future, Kathy.
It is a very timely forum as we've just received news hours ago that the president has called for the courtesy resignations of all cabinet secretaries. What have you heard on the ground? Because some of the cabsecs there are attending that forum.
Yes, actually, we're waiting for the talk of Sir R.C. Balisacan because it's going to be one of the few, one of the first keynote speakers for today, and we're waiting for his statement when it comes to the resignation, the courtesy resignations of the cabinet members. But just a while ago, we also received news that the Department of Budget and Management, Ms. Mina, will also submit her resignation to the president, but we're still waiting for more updates regarding that. Kathy.
Right. Thank you so much for that update. So we've got the Budget Secretary, Amini Pangandaman, as well as the Tourism Secretary, Cristina Frasco, tendering their resignations, responding to the call of the president to tender their courtesy resignations. Our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza, joining us there from Manila from the Business World Forum. Well, the Business World Forum, Unlocking the Philippine Potential, is happening now at the Grand Hyatt in BGC, as Amy was reporting. And among the keynote speakers are DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, Secretary Frederick Go, and Ambrose Andrew Huang. Andrew will be joining us live in studio tomorrow, Friday, for more. But first, let's catch up with one of the speakers en route to the event, BDO Capital and Investment President Ed Francisco. So good to see you, Ed. Welcome back to the program.
Hello, good morning, Cathy.
Right, so what do you make of market reaction there with the courtesy resignations that the president had asked?
Yeah, it's a little shocking, but on the other hand, it's good anyway to start with a clean slate. I'm glad that we've heard of some of at least Secretary Franco and others already offering that, doing that.
It's shock and awe on a Thursday morning, but really what's key to investors and businessmen is the policy certainty that they so prize. So what do you think will happen then to this idea of certainty and continuity after the midterm elections?
No, I totally agree. We already have so much uncertainty because of the U.S. tariffs, and then we're going to add more here. That would actually worry the investors and local businessmen. I just hope it will be quick. The BBM will decide quickly, and then those who are performing will be given the reign to continue. Because especially like some certain industries that are at least vital to me are at least the DOF, right? And then even and even the DOE. There's been a lot of investment, a lot of activity there. We're working with the secretaries and their people, and we had good traction. The DOTC anyway, of course, just sad to see Secretary Jimmy leave, but at least the new secretary, somebody I've also worked with in the past, so he's doing a lot of work also. So I'm excited. I guess we'll just see what other changes will happen in the next few days.
Right, but that's a silver lining I hear there, that there have been investments and interest in big ticket infrastructure projects from your end, from a banking perspective. How much of that has actually turned into actual investments, the pledges that have come through because of the uncertainty created by Trump's tariffs?
Okay. Despite the Trump uncertainty, it shows you that long-term investors have really come in. One of the first big long-term investments was that for the Meralco MGen, largest integrated solar in the world that's being built, right? So there was a big foreign group that invested a couple of $100 million, and then the banking community came in. There are continuing deals happening on the side, private placements, but and there's also the IPO for Maynila. There's I guess roadshows happening. So that also shows that there's foreign interest still there. So I talked to a lot of many foreign companies, developers looking for actual investments here from Europe and from Asia. So that's continued. I just hope also that whatever change there'll be at the secretary level will only be for the better, faster improvement, faster processing of their investments, less red tape. If those things happen, then it'll be good for us.
What you just said there, a litany of all the reasons why not to invest in the Philippines, appears to be a real sticky problem. Reason why we're still unlocking the Philippine potential.
Correct,
I mean, I've been
correct.
covering local business here for 10 years, and it's the same refrain, Ed. I mean, why can't we get
Yeah.
out of it? And what should we do to actually
I know,
really
no.
unlock the potential?
Yeah. Yeah, we've always had our shackles, and that's why I always describe ourselves to a 4x4, where all our neighbors are driving Ferraris already. We're a 4x4, so even if there's a expressway, we can really go fast. But then on the other hand, the only good part about that, when the things get rocky, we're also at least protected because we have heavy duty suspension. No, but anyway, going back to what you said, no, you're right. That we really have so much potential, and sometimes it's just really, the red tape, all this processing, the LGU challenges. If those things can be fixed, it can be. There's so much that can be done because at the national level, we're really getting the support. But sometimes it's even it's a local level, and sometimes the people below where they're so entrenched, where they're not open to changes. So those are the things you have to change. It's really also the mindset.
And you're a speaker at the forum there, at the Business World Forum at the BGC. What's going to be your main key takeaway then, given that we do have the call for those courtesy resignations and the Trump tariffs crossing midway mark for the pause that ends on July 31st?
Yeah, anyway, I think I'm the last panel together with PCCI and MAC President Al Panlito, a good friend of ours. So, anyway, I think what we're really going to emphasize is we just really need to encourage more businessmen investment here. We need less red tape. We need the LGU support, less bureaucracy really. If we have that support, the private sector are really willing to step up. And of course, education is important because medium term, if we're reading all these reports of people who can't even read and write, and if that really, even with the demographic dividend, if our quality of education is that bad, then the future of our economy will also be in trouble.
Yeah, very salient points there, Ed, and I'll take on an EV Jeep anytime, minus that Ferrari. Thank you so much, and appreciate the time and your insights, Ed Francisco of BPO Capital and Investments. And the Business World Forum is happening as we speak, so if you haven't gone there yet, do stop by and listen in at the Business World Forum at the Grand Hyatt in BGC. Well, you're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, stars of Filipino-produced Hollywood film The Last Resort paid a courtesy call to President Marcos. Keep it here on One News. back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Philinvest Development Corp plans to raise up to 8 billion pesos via preferred share offering as part of their raising capital efforts. The Gutian-led conglomerate secured a nod from the Securities and Exchange Commission regarding the offer's resolution. This will consist of a base tranche of up to 6 million preferred shares with an oversubscription option of up to 2 million shares. Both will be priced at 1,000 pesos per share based on indicative terms. FDC intends to issue the shares in up to 2 tranches, Series A, which will be non-redeemable for 2 years from the issue date, and Series B, which will be non-redeemable for 5 years. Apart from Philinvest shares, the SEC also approved the 6 planned mergers of Uni Holdings as part of their transition to being an investment holding company. By absorbing 6 real estate firms, Uni Holdings will own the assets, rights, and liabilities of these mergers as a surviving entity. In exchange, their common shares will be issued to the shareholders of the absorbed firms. Uni Holdings will also issue 64.42 million shares from the increased capital stock in exchange for the net asset value of the absorbed companies and canceled shares of stock of their shareholders. Security Bank joins the Alliance for Green Commercial Banks, making them the first Philippine lender to do so. The IFC-led alliance aims to boost green commercial banking in emerging markets by bringing financial institutions together. For them, SBC's membership sends a strong signal for local banks' preparedness to shape a greener financial future. Security Bank Executive Vice President Eduardo Olbes told the business world that the membership will help them enhance their ability to lead change within the country's banking industry and contribute meaningfully to sustainable development goals. For more business stories, check out Business World online. And before we go, lead stars of the Media Quest-produced Hollywood movie The Last Resort paid a courtesy call to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Malacanang. Star Wars franchise actors Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich wore Filipiniana to the palace visit. Ridley in a terno with pineapple top design and Ehrenreich in a barong Tagalog. Leading their visit is Media Quest Chairman Manuel V. Pangilinan and Director Donald Petrie. During the visit, Marcos was shown some clips of the movie and was gifted a clapper signed by the actors. He also expressed appreciation to the filmmakers for showcasing the Philippines and contributing the promotion of its tourism and the film industry. The Last Resort is currently being produced and shot entirely in the Philippines. Catch it in the location shots and on the big screen soon. Looking forward to watching it. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. We're also streamed live on YouTube and on our Facebook channels. Have a great day ahead.